So, Rav Melamed, as usual, gives an introduction to each chapter about what the purpose of that melacha is and how special it is. So, the melacha of hotza'ah, of taking out, literally, carrying, consists of transporting an object from private domain, Reshut Yachid, to a public domain, Reshut Harabim. Reshut literally means domain, or from the word Reshut, which is permission. So if you have no permission to be in somebody else's house unless they invite you to there, but the public domain, Reshut Harabim, is where everybody else is definitely allowed to be. And also vice versa, meaning you can't carry from the public domain into a private domain, or transporting an object more than 4 amot in a public domain. So technically speaking, if you stopped every 6 feet with an object in the public domain, you are not being transgressing this melacha, but I don't know anybody who does baby steps like that. And so, here's the introduction. During the 6 weekdays, man's role is to perform melachot in order to improve and develop the world. We just learned this morning with Benedict about tikkun olam, literally developing the world, to craft tools and instruments, build houses, cultivate crops for food and textiles. And the highest purpose of each and every melacha is to build the Mishkan and the Mikdash, the tabernacle in the desert and afterwards in Shiloh, and the Mikdash, the temple in Jerusalem, in which God's presence can dwell. Despite the tremendous value of work, the Torah commands us to refrain from all melacha on Shabbat in order to explore the foundations of faith and to study Torah. In this way, the work that we do all week long is imbued with deeper significance. It has the power to bring the world closer to perfection and establish within it a mikdash for the Lord, Hashem of Israel. So, by the way, I learned from one of my students that there's no word in Hebrew for perfect, because only Hashem is perfect. And so the closest is mushlam, which means wholesome, but perfect is reserved only for Hashem. The novelty of hotza'ah, meaning the difference or why it's unique, is that an act that does not physically alter an object can still be considered a melacha. So we're not using a hammer to put a nail in the wall. We're not using a pen to write letters. We're just technically moving an object from one place to another. And so originally the Talmud called it melacha geru'ah, a bad, not bad in terms of it's not allowed or bad for the people, just in terms of the fact that there's no change in the activity by removing the location. So there's nothing in the world that does not have a location, a place. When an item is in its place, it has a purpose. When it is not, it is unimportant. For example, in a place with no water, water is very valuable, while in a place with plenty of water, its value declines. Furthermore, nothing can exist without a place to be. So space is part of the dimensions. I think it's a 3 dimension, which means width, length, and height. This explains why God himself is referred to as Makom, place, or Hamakom, because Hashem ensures the world's continued existence and provides a place for it to be. And in Kabbalah and even in Nefesh Chaim and Tanya, both opposing opinions about what it means to have the relationship with Hashem, they both talk about what's called Tzimtzum, which technically and very mysteriously means that Hashem had to make Hashem smaller in order for the world to exist, in order for any material to exist. So if I'm stepping on a floor, God forbid I'm not stepping on God, but Hashem had to make the space smaller in order for the existence to even be in the material. So again, that's part of the mysticism of it, but I think basically this melacha explains it in the best way. So when the sages discussed each type of place, they used the word reshut, property, authority, or domain, since every object exists by the authority of the place where it rests. We find in the Torah that the donations for the Mishkan were collected from each individual's private domain, Reshut Yachid, from their tent, and were brought to the public domain, Reshut Rabim, where the Mishkan was being built. This was considered a melacha, as the verse states explicitly. Moshe then ordered that the proclamation be made throughout the encampment, let no man or woman make further effort, melacha, la'asot, on behalf of the nations for the sanctuary, and the people stopped bringing, ve'ikale ha'am mehavi, from the word to bring or to come. So they stopped coming from their private domain of the tents to the public. According to Torah law, there are three types of domains: a private domain, Reshut Yachid, a public domain, Reshut Rabim, and an exempt area, Makom Patur, which means that it's smaller than 4 tfachim by 4 tfachim and higher than 10 tfachim up. And the sages decreed, so for the fourth domain, sages decreed that most places defined by Torah law as a Makom Patur would have the status of a public domain. Such a rabbinically defined public domain is called a Carmelite. So the most common example for the Carmelite is the beach. Yes, it is public where anybody can go. You don't have, unless it's a private beach, for example, you don't need permission of anybody to be on the beach. But on the other hand, it's not something that is frequented by everybody. It's just the people that are in the beach, and when they go into the water, there isn't a change between the public and private. So if you're carrying something in your hand, that would not be a problem. And that brings us to just one more connection to what Benedict talked about this morning. When we bring a get, of course, we're not allowed to write a get on Shabbat, and the question was, why can't we deliver a get on Shabbat? So there's two reasons. One is that you are carrying from a private domain to a public domain, meaning the Beit Din is considered a private domain, and the public, you would have to go into the public in order to go to where the woman is. And the second thing is that we talked about tikkun olam, so that is also the idea that we're trying to make sure that we are trying to correct the world and make the world better. And even though divorce is a mitzvah according to the Torah, it's not done on Shabbat because of other issues, especially writing a receipt or confirming that the woman got the get, etc., etc. And we'll stop here and we'll open up for questions.